Hi, grade 5. Today we started a new lesson in your language arts textbook in Unit 2 Nouns. Today we talked about capitalization. So first we went over the rules. We capitalize days of the week, months of the year, and holidays. Okay, so in other words, we capitalize these proper nouns. We capitalize names, um, and we capitalize the titles of people that precede names, like Mr., Mrs., Doctor. Okay, and also we capitalize the first, the last, and the important words and titles of works. So today we answered a few questions on page 96 in your language arts textbook, but we also completed page 22 in your language arts practice workbook. So please take it out and let's go over these questions together. So for part A, we should draw a line through each proper noun and rewrite the nouns on the line above each sentence. Use correct capitalization. So in number 1, my group report on Thanksgiving Day for Mrs. Karen's class is due on Friday. All right, we should capitalize Thanksgiving Day, Mrs. Karen's, and Friday and write them on the line. Number 2, Felipe, Bayan, and I are meeting at Smith Library to do research. We're going to capitalize the name Felipe, the name Bayan, and Smith Library, which is the name of the library. It is a proper noun. Next, in 1623, Governor William Bradford made July 30th a day of thanks for Plymouth Colony. So here we should capitalize Governor William Bradford. Okay, the G and the W and the B, this is his title. All right, he is the governor. And we should also capitalize the S and the, we should also capitalize Plymouth Colony. So the P and the C for this place. All right, again, proper noun. On November 26, 1789, President George Washington also declared a day of thanks. Here we should capitalize the month November, so capital N, and also President George Washington. George Washington is a proper noun, and his title is President, which should be capitalized as well. Number 5, the editor of Godey's Lady's book, Mrs. Sarah Hale, wanted a day of thanks. So in this sentence, we are going to rewrite the title of the book. Okay, so Godey's Lady's book, and we're going to capitalize Mrs. Sarah Hale. And next in part the next part of page 22, part B, complete each sentence with a proper noun and use correct capitalization. So these are some proper nouns that we used in class. Number 6, in the United States, graves are decorated with flags and flowers on Memorial Day. So the first one is a country, a place, all right, but a specific country. Here we're talking about the United States. And the second one is a holiday, Memorial Day. Both are proper nouns that should be capitalized. Number 7, this holiday is observed on the last Monday in the month of May. Number 8, Flag Day, another holiday. Flag Day is the holiday in June that honors our country's flag. Number 9, Columbus Day in October is named for the explorer Christopher Columbus. And finally, number 10, King Ferdinand V and Queen Isabella sponsored his first voyage. All right, so many of you already knew how to capitalize these proper nouns and how to know if a proper noun should be capitalized. So for many of you, it's just revision. Please check Smart Schools. You have a sheet for homework to please complete, all right, as written on the weekly plan. So after grammar, we moved on to our story for this week. It is a biography about a boy named Philo Farnsworth, okay, called The Boy Who Invented TV. All right, so we're going to read about how this boy came up with an invention that would change the world. Let's start reading. Imagine what it was like growing up on a farm in the American West of 1906. With electricity rare out in the country, chores took up most of your day. No refrigerators, no cars, few phones, hardly any indoor bathrooms. Long distances separated you from friends and relations. Meeting up with others took some effort. You rode a horse or walked. There were trains, but riding or even seeing one was a big deal. Getting news was another challenge. What government leaders were doing in Washington, the latest in the arts and sciences, whether sports teams were winning or losing, new information of any kind, it trickled in haphazardly by mail. Not many people had books, and libraries were few and far between. It was all a bit lonely. What about fun? Movies? No. Radio? No. It was only on military ships. There was music if you played your own instruments. There were no malls to hang out at. When you had enough money saved up to buy a bicycle or roller skates, you ordered from the Wish book, the Sears Roebuck mail order catalog. And there was no television. That's right, no TV. In 1906, inside a log cabin on a farm in Utah, a boy was born who would change things. His name was Philo Taylor Farnsworth. Okay, so the first sentence here asks for the readers to imagine what life was like in the year 1906. Okay, so in order to understand the information that the author is going to give, it's important for you guys to compare life in 1906 to your lives today. How was it different? We know that there were no radios, movies, or television. Traveling took a long time, so news was very hard to get. So we can tell from this, guys, that there were no computers and there was no internet. The author tells us about life in 1906 to help us understand how imaginative he had to have been in order to invent something as advanced as television. All right, so it's not like he had similar inventions around him. So he really had an amazing imagination. Okay. Sorry, guys, if the text isn't very clear, but you can open your literature anthology if you have trouble reading it. No sooner did Philo Farnsworth learn to talk than he asked a question, then another and another. His parents answered as best they could. Noticing Philo's interest in anything mechanical, his father took the 3-year-old boy to see a train at a station. At first, Philo was afraid this huge, noisy thing might be a monster, but the nice engineer invited the boy up into the cab with him, explaining a bit about how steam-powered trains worked. That night, Philo sat at the kitchen table and drew detailed pictures of what went on inside the motor of a train. 2 new machines captivated Philo as he grew up. One was a hand-cranked telephone purchased by a neighbor. Holding the phone one day, hearing the voice of his beloved aunt, 6-year-old Philo got goosebumps. After all, she lived a long ways away. Another neighbor brought a hand-cranked phonograph to a dance. Music swirling out of a machine. It was almost impossible to believe. These things seemed like magic to me, Philo said later. Besides being incredibly clever, the inventions brought people together in whole new ways. Philo's father shared his wonder. On clear summer nights, as they lay in the grass and gazed at the stars, his father told him about Alexander Graham Bell and the telephone, Thomas Edison and the phonograph. Inventors. These became Philo's heroes. Away on a temporary job, his father appointed Philo, the oldest of 5 children, the man in the family. Philo was 8. His many chores included feeding the pigs, milking and grazing the cow, fetching wood for the stove. He did get his own pony, Tippy. It was also a sort of reward to skip school for a while. Bullies there teased him about his unusual name. Shy and serious, Philo didn't fight back. He found it far more appealing to practice reading with his grandmother's Sears Roebuck catalog. It had toys as well as cameras, alarm clocks, and machines that used a new, invisible source of power. Electricity, it was called. In his spare time, Philo raised lambs and sold them. When he had enough money saved up, he visited his grandmother to pick a bicycle out of her catalog. But somehow she talked him into ordering a violin instead. Philo did love the sound of music, its orderly rhythms, and even at age 10 he dreamed of fame. Maybe he could find it by creating music like what he heard on the neighbor's phonograph. Soon he was performing in dance bands, making $5 every Friday night. Playing the violin was one more thing for the bullies to tease him about. Then one day, Philo fought back, and the teasing ended. All right, so we know that as soon as Philo learned how to speak, he asked many questions. He was captivated. Remember, captivated, your vocabulary word. He was captivated by many mechanical things, such as engines, telephones, and phonographs. All right, don't confuse, guys, phonographs with telephones. Phonographs are machines that, it is a machine that makes music. All right. So he makes a point to talk about telephones and phonographs because these two inventions brought people together, which inspired Philo. All right. He also talked about how Thomas Edison, who invented the phonograph, and Alexander Graham Bell became his heroes. All right. So he is fascinated about machines and about new inventions. It's clear that Philo felt different from the other children. The text says that he is shy and serious. It says that he was bullied because of his name. But during this time, Philo was engaged in many activities that the normal kid or the typical kid would not. An example of this is that he would rather practice reading on his own. He raised lambs and he sold them, and he performed in dance bands, among other things. All right, so Philo was a very responsible child. He was interested in learning to read by himself, in learning to play the violin, and he figured out how to earn money at a very young age. Okay. Trying for a better life, the Farnsworths moved from Utah to an Idaho farm with fields of beets and potatoes. 11-year-old Philo drove one of their covered wagons, carrying a crate of piglets, a cage of hens, his violin, and their new prized possession, a phonograph. So they finally bought a phonograph. Arriving in the Snake River Valley, he noticed something up in the air. Power lines. Their new home was wired for electricity. A generator ran the lights and water heater, the hay stacker and grain elevator, and other farm equipment. And up in the attic was another welcome surprise. A shelf of old popular science magazines with thrilling articles about magnetism, electricity, and those new magic boxes, radios. People promptly claimed that Philo promptly claimed this as his bedroom. His chores began before dawn, but he trained himself to wake an hour early so he could switch on the light and read in bed. Any spare money he had, he went to buy more magazines. That's when he saw the word television for the first time. It meant a machine that was something like a radio, only it sent pictures instead of sounds. It didn't actually exist yet, but scientists were racing to invent one. The electric generator broke down a lot, and repairs were costly. Each time the repairman came, Philo bombarded him with questions. All right, so Philo's life changed once he moved to this new state, once he moved to Idaho. He now had electricity and he had access to science magazines. Most importantly, though, he saw the word television for the first time. All right, we stopped here today, guys. We're going to continue reading tomorrow. Your homework is on Smart Schools, and I will see you all tomorrow. Physical students and those who are home, please wait for tomorrow's video. Bye, guys.